Welcome to Rewitched, a charmed 1998 rewatch podcast. Join us on our journey as we recap, examine, and critique the series episode by episode from the beginning.
We'll be keeping our podcast spoiler free, so we welcome fans new and old to join us in watching and reflecting on one of our favorite shows. Currently, we're on season 2,
I'm your host, Jess Sabanko.
and I'm your host, Mia Sabenko.
Now let's get into this week's episode. This week, we're discussing Season 2, Episode 13, Animal Pragmatism. It originally aired on February 10th, 2000, and had 5.28 million viewers.
I'm really glad you were the one that had the intro there because I definitely did not know how to say that word. Okay, so it starts out in this college classroom, and we see the professor is talking about animal mating habits, and Phoebe is sitting there in the class making eyes at another guy, and he's talking about how an animal must get the attention of the mate it desires, and then there must be a sign that the interest is mutual. And he goes on, and the girls behind Phoebe are all whispering to each other and laughing. And Phoebe goes, "What's up with my study group having fun without me?" And they're like, "Sorry, Phoebe, you looked busy." And, obviously talking about the guy that she was staring at, and they're laughing about it. And then the professor gives an assignment and says that he'll see them all next week. And Phoebe notices that the girls have a book in their hand, and she's like, "Is that a book of love spells?" And the redhead girl said, "Yeah, I found it in the Valentine's Day display at the campus bookstore." And the brunette girl says it's stupid, and the blonde girl says that it's not. So there's three other girls. and then and then the redhead says, "We just figured since we're dateless this year, maybe it'll give us some laughs." And Phoebe's looking in the book and laughing, and she tells them that the spell is all backwards and tells them how it would be done correctly and kind of rewrites the spell. And they all kind of stare at her like, "Why does she know this?" And Phoebe's like, I'm doing a paper on the growing popularity of witchcraft." And then she invites them to a party at P3 tomorrow night, and they tell her that they'll be there. And then she walks up to the guy from earlier and invites him as well.
Yeah. So Phoebe is officially a college student, loving it.
I know, I'm so excited about it. I love the whole Phoebe going to college era. It's giving me so much, I'm just so excited for her future. I want to know what she ends up doing with her degree or if she finishes this time.
Yeah, or even what her degree is going to be, because at this point, we don't even know what her major is.
Yeah, I know. I don't even know what this class is.
I was thinking the same thing.
Sort of weird, we're going to talk about different types of mating. No, I'm sure it was just the lesson, but I wonder what the class is, honestly.
Yeah. I'm also wondering, because one thing I noticed, okay, so Phoebe's in college, right? But we know Phoebe's older. Phoebe isn't college age, but are the students she's interacting with 19? And if so, why is this woman in her mid-20s flirting with a 19-year-old? I have questions.
Oh my god, that's so true. On top of that, inviting them to a bar is
Yeah,
or a
are they even
club,
old enough to go to a bar? I don't know.
we don't have any of those answers. Wow, I didn't
Are
even
they
think
all
about that.
seniors? Because if not, I don't think they can get into this bar. I'm confused.
Right, if she's in a freshman class, well, I don't know how it works because I don't really go to college,
Well, I
but
think Phoebe already did some credits, so she's probably either a sophomore or a junior. But
oh yeah,
still,
true.
only really some juniors and seniors are over 21.
Yeah.
Unless they all went back to school, which doesn't feel
Especially,
realistic.
yeah, especially they all looked pretty young. Even the guy she was making eyes at, he had quite the baby face,
Mm-hmm.
I think. So I can't imagine that they're old enough. It didn't even cross my mind though.
Because it's Phoebe, I don't think you should be promoting underage drinking at your club. That's a real good way to get P3 shut down and piss off Piper.
Seriously, it's a good way to like lose all of your money. That's what your main income is right now.
Yeah, literally, no one else has a job.
I know. Damn. But overall, cute to see Phoebe in college already making friends and meeting people. I wish I
Yeah,
was as like personable as Phoebe is. Like
I know.
I'm kind of jealous about that.
Yeah, like I'm not a personable person. I don't just talk to like random people.
Yeah. I mean, I can do it somewhat easily, but I never go out of my way to do it. Like more often
Yeah.
than not, I try to avoid most people.
Same.
I don't even know why. Uh, anyways, anything else to add about that scene?
I mean, not really. It's just setting up the idea of the love spell, which will come up later. All right. So then we're in a dorm room or like some kind of campus apartment, and it's nighttime. And there's a pig, a snake, and a bunny all on a carpet. And there's a circle drawn around them and a pentagram and some candles. And we see the three girls that Phoebe was talking to in class are all there. And the brunette asks if they can turn some lights on, and the others are like, no, like that would spoil the mood. Then they all like join hands together. And Tessa, who we find out is the brunette's name, is worried about them hurting the animals. And the blonde tells her it's just a joke spell, it's just supposed to be for fun. And she's like, but you could choose to turn any animal into a man, and you chose a pig. Tessa says it's widely known that pigs are the most intelligent species. That's why she chose it. And
I
then the
assume the
blonde is like,
blonde
well,
girl.
then we all know why Andrea, which is like the redhead's name, chose the rabbit. And they all start making jokes about this. And then they start the spell, and nothing happens. And Tessa's like, okay, that was fun. Can I go now? And then Andrea remembers the spell, the words were all wrong, and she pulls out the recording she made during class and plays it. And when Phoebe's voice says it, there's like this smoke effect that appears on the screen, and the girls all scream as the animals turn into men and they stand up, and there's just these three naked guys in the room now.
So I thought that was pretty smart the way that they had it. Like Andrea was recording the lecture and Phoebe said it, and that's how they turned into animals. Or I mean humans, because I was wondering like how would they have made it happen because you can't really say spells if you're not a witch. So
Yeah,
that was pretty smart
exactly.
of them. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that definitely worked for me. And just the overall mood of this scene, it was fun. We're getting to see a little bit of each of the girls' personalities, which will come up later in the episode. So this scene works for me.
Yeah. Andrea, the redhead, seems to be like the more sporadic all over, kind of always looking for fun one. While Tessa seems to be the really nervous, like put together nerdy girl kind of thing, and I guess the blonde girl's somewhere in between.
Yeah, that's how I was kind of feeling too.
All right, so may I just say, Rabbit and Snake, so fine. They picked such fine men to play those characters. Just had to point that out.
It's funny
Like,
because like I know the actor who plays Snake because I've seen him in other things.
me
And I
too.
always like I'm like, oh yeah, it's that guy. I remember he appeared in Charmed.
I don't It's weird because every time I see him, he looks familiar. Like I know I've seen him act in other shows before, but I can't really like put my finger on it.
He was in an episode of Buffy, that I know definitively, but I know I've seen him in other things too, just kind of like guest starring.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that seems to be his role most of the time. But anyways, other than that, I feel like it was mostly just plot, cute little scene. So then we have our theme song, and then it's the next morning in the manor at the kitchen. And we see Piper's cleaning up the kitchen when Prue walks in. Piper says, well, it's a weekday and Phoebe Hallowell is already at campus, while Prue Hallowell, master of the morning meetings, sultan of scheduling, and queen of, and then Prue walks up behind her and tells her to cut it. And Piper asks how it feels, and Prue says that it's amazing and that she's gonna do nothing today. Piper's like, really, Prue? Nothing entails physically doing nothing, thinking about nothing, and worrying about nothing, as opposed to your sister here, who is so in the middle of something. And then tells Prue that she's worried about Valentine's Day because Dan wants to have dinner. And then Prue brings up Leo. and says, I mean, he is mortal now. Doesn't that change things? Then Prue says to Piper that she's with her, whatever, and whoever she chooses. Super cute.
Yeah, I love this scene. I really like their interaction with each other, kind of the teasing, the normal sister stuff that's going on, as well as like Prue being supportive, because I think that even though we all know that Piper's kind of made her choice in Dan, it's very clear that there's still feelings there for Leo and she's feeling conflicted about it. So I like that Prue is like teasing her, but also providing that support of like, no matter who you choose, like, I'm there for you.
Exactly. I mean, they all understand that honestly, at the end of the day, it's a really difficult decision. Two men that she loved, two that are really good guys. Like, that's hard,
Yeah.
Really great guys. And one of them has the advantage that he can be around all the time, while the other one can't be around all the time, but also she's able to tell everything to because he knows the secret. So it is, I would be, I wouldn't even know how to make a choice like that. Be just as conflicted. So poor Piper, and I'm glad that Prue's there to kind of try to lighten up the situation and let her know that, hey, I'm here for you no matter what.
Yeah, exactly. And I also like the way that this scene is kind of really reflecting Prue's personality and the fact that as we're gonna see throughout the episode, like it's really hard for Prue to just like chill and do nothing.
Yeah. Yeah, I kind of love that too, because she's so used to, as we've mentioned several times, she's like the busy bee, always about work, always has been from the start. And now here she is for the first time unemployed, and we get to see how she handles that situation. So I'm excited to talk about that too.
Yeah. And it's also one of those things, like for me, because I remember like during COVID, like when people weren't working and stuff, like I remember for a lot of people, it was like making them like, oh, like I feel like I need to do something. I feel like I need to do something. Like I was thriving. I was just chilling. Like I enjoyed every minute of not working.
I know, it sucks because I'm genuinely like, that's who I am too. I'm like a lazy person at heart. It's kind of
Same.
bad. Like, I'm a hard worker. I work every day, but like if I had the choice to sit in bed and do nothing all day, I would do that in a heartbeat.
No,
COVID was the
exactly.
best time for me as well. Like that was amazing.
Like luckily, I wasn't sick. I was able to just stay home. Like so it was very like good. Like I thrived in that environment. I was just like
Yeah.
watching TV, hanging out, reading, like doing little
Yeah.
enjoyable things, laying outside tanning, like normal great behavior.
I know you get to like you got I feel like that was free and got to enjoy yourself. I even started painting. Like I don't paint, like but I loved it. It was so much fun. But anyways, yeah, Prue is obviously not that type of person. Or maybe she could be, she just doesn't she's not there yet, she's never had that experience before.
Yeah, maybe it's something she has to like adapt to. So then we cut back to that college dorm room, and Tessa's in the living room with the guys, and they're all being just like a lot. And Snake says, you two are still acting like nothing's changed. Like you're still trapped in the confines of your cages, behaving like animals. And Tessa's like, well, that's what you are. And he says, not anymore. We've been given a gift, thanks to you. It's time to take it out for a test drive, see what the world looks like from up here. Tessa tells them that they can't. She's like, I mean, you have to stay here. And they don't listen to her. They all leave and they just walk out into the hallway naked. And people are staring. And then they walk up to the guy that we saw that Phoebe was kind of like making eyes at in class. And he's holding a laundry basket and they like knock him on the floor and steal his clothes after he like makes comments about them being naked.
I don't know why that was so funny the way they just like shoved him out of the way. Like it was such a bully move. It's just like this poor guy just trying to do his laundry. And he seems very nice too, by the way.
Yeah, he does seem like a nice guy.
So we're getting some, alpha energy from Snake over here and see that this obviously is going to not go as planned.
Yeah, exactly.
So then we move to P3 and we see Piper walking in carrying a giant heart made of roses. And there's a bouquet on the bar, and she asks who they're for. Then Leo pops up from behind the counter and says that they're for her. And he tells her that they were the best he could do and says, I just wanted you to have something to mark the day. And she says that she has something for him too, but it's just his first paycheck. And he says, looks like after everything, I'm still working for the Charmed Ones. And she asks how he's doing with everything, and he says, I'm kind of making it up as I go. And says, Piper, if me being here is awkward for you. She says, no, what's there to be awkward about? And then they kind of have a weird look at each other. And he goes to get back to work. And then Dan walks in with like a huge arrangement of roses, just totally like making Leo's flowers look like dog shit. Um, and Piper's like, what are those? I thought we were going to wait until tonight. And he's like, you're right, I should take them back. And she's like, don't you dare give them to me. And tells him that they're beautiful, and they give each other a hug. And then Leo walks out from the back and and Dan sees him. And he's like, Piper, is there something you wanted to tell me? She's like, not that I know of, not realizing that Leo's out there. And then they break apart, and Leo comes up. And Dan's like, you never mentioned he was here. And Piper said, Leo's here. And starts laughing like awkwardly. And then she tells him that she meant to and she's sorry, but he's just here helping out. And Dan says, with what exactly? And she's like, handyman, busboy, barback, security type stuff. He needed a place to stay, and it's really not a big deal, Dan. And he says, that's just the point it is. When you were sick, you called out his name, not mine, and I was right there with you. When he's around, you're different. We're different. How do you want me to handle that? And she says, I don't know. And to tell you the truth, if the situation were reversed, I don't know how I would feel. But I do know how I feel right now. And he says, how do you feel? She says, like for the first time in a very long time, I'm actually looking forward to a Valentine's Day dinner, and you're the reason. And then they kiss each other and they hug, and Leo looks over while he's like hanging up the heart and sees them and looks kind of sad about it.
Yeah.
So this is like such a horrible situation when you think about it realistically. I mean, it's kind of really a struggle for all of them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, poor Dan, think about it. If I was with somebody that I really liked and they're constantly like when we started, there was still something going on with your ex. And then you say his name like in your sleep or whatever. Not obviously they have a different situation. It's because he
Mm-hmm.
saved her life, but Dan doesn't know that. Like, say all that was going on, and then all of a sudden he's back and he's hanging around your club, probably hanging around your family still more. Like, I'd be pissed. I'd be like, what am I here for? Like, I'd be out the door. I'm sorry. But like, my competition is right in front of me, and you're obviously like still giving him the time of day. Like, I couldn't do that.
Yeah, no, I mean, honestly, like, I remember in previous watches, I used to like not fuck with Dan, but
Me
like,
too.
I really empathize with him in this watch because, like, being in Dan's position, like, I don't even know how I would react, but I know that I would not be as calm and collected as him. Like, I don't think I could. I don't think I'm capable.
I don't get it. Like, he keeps himself so calm about it. Like, I would have lost my mind by now. I would have either left or I really would have said something like flipped out. Because, I mean, think about it. He's making it very clear in the nicest way possible that this makes him uncomfortable and it worries him. And Piper really doesn't give him any explanations or anything at all, you know? It's really
Mhm.
not a big deal, Dan. Bitch. Like, I'm sorry, but Piper, what kind of answer is that?
And like for
You're
me,
right. I don't know how I would feel, but I can't wait to
yeah.
see you. Like, what?
But that's the moment I would have known, like as Dan, that Leo was the one, because there's a reason that you're not just telling him to go away.
Exactly.
Like, you don't just
Exactly.
keep your ex around unless you still have feelings for them. I'm sorry. Like, people who are like, oh, I'm friends with my ex, I'm friends with my ex. No, you're not. I'm sorry, you're not. You're keeping them there because they're your shelf guy or your shelf girl, and you're going to go back to them one day. That's why.
Exactly. Exactly. It's not. I think Dan knows that he's the second choice, but to be fair, I'm sure we've all been in that position where even though we know something isn't working, it's hard to leave, you know? Like maybe he's still like I can understand why it's still difficult for him to just kind of get up and walk away, but at the same time, like this
Yeah, I
relationship
know.
is
Like,
fairly fresh, and I feel
yeah.
like at this point, if it's not changing now, I'd be like, well, let me get out of the situation before it gets worse.
That's true, yeah. Because I feel like even though like he is at the point where he's probably in love with Piper, like it's still early in their relationship. Like it's not like, oh, we've been in this thing for a year. Like I'm already like so invested. But I mean,
Exactly.
then again, like Dan was moving very quickly for him, it might feel like they've been together for so long and like he's really losing something if he walks away from this.
That's true. It could also be like that. And I'm sure that he still has that hope that like things could be different. Like maybe she'll realize that I'm the one for her and not him and like has all those conflictions, but still, I don't know.
Yeah, of course. Cause I feel like even if you like in your heart know it, like you never want to believe that you're the second choice, right? You're always gonna be like,
Yeah,
no, well, she's with me right now, right? She's gonna pick me, she's gonna pick me, even
exactly.
though everything like in the universe is screaming at you that like, no, like look what's happening around you.
Exactly. So there's a lot of confliction in his head and his heart, same thing with Piper. And then Leo on top of all that. Leo's kind of chilling in the mix, like he doesn't really have to care what Dan thinks, but it's gonna hurt him to see Piper and know that like this is happening and he's obviously there fighting for her still, like giving her flowers and things like that. Like
Yeah,
it's
no, I mean,
difficult for
okay,
all of
let's
them.
think about like Leo's position, like really for a second, because like this is a man who was very much willing to give up his wings to be with her, right? Then he actually ends up losing them because he saved her life.
Mhm.
And he told her he wants to be with her. And now he's watching her choose to be with someone else.
Like that's so hard. It's how do you and it sucks because we know that he gets it. We know that he understands Piper's perspective and why she's with Dan right now and everything, but at the same time that's super painful because he feels like he's given up a lot and he's still not willing to stay away from her and he's still willing to do what it takes to make her happy.
Yeah.
I mean, working for her, obviously he needed a place and needed a job and whatever, but even right there he's like if this is too much for you, like let me know. I don't want to like cross any boundaries. Like he's still at the same time being a very respectful guy.
Mhm.
Like so it's God, this the strength in all of them right now is
Yeah.
like this is I wouldn't know what to do, how to feel in if I was in any of their positions, Like and I can't
Mhm.
really blame any of them either. Like
Yeah.
they're all kind of just in a bad spot right now.
Yeah. And I feel like if I didn't know Piper as well as I know Piper from having been with her so closely the last two seasons, like I feel like I would judge her for this because I'm like, well, you're kind of like stringing Leo there. You have Dan, like it just feels like a lot. But like I also know all the extra circumstances and kind of like why she's doing all this and how like this is so difficult for her. So I really sympathize with all of them, which is kind of crazy because I feel like in this situation, like in real life, you'd find someone to blame. But like here, it's hard to blame any of them because like I do think that Piper does genuinely have feelings for Dan. And like she never really stopped loving Leo, but she kind of accepted that they were never going to be able to be together. But now that they do have that opportunity, she's like, well, I already have this thing going with Dan. Why couldn't this have happened, 6 months ago before Dan and I got into this relationship?
Exactly. Like it's hard to blame her for this. And I feel like you said in the past I have or in the past I didn't really care for Dan or whatever, but now that we're really analyzing it and looking into it this time around, like I kind of see everyone's perspective and like you said, it's kind of impossible to find someone to blame here.
Yeah.
And definitely the way that this episode ends, I want to have a conversation again about who we think it's going to end up,
Yeah,
being at the end of the day.
definitely. So then we're at the manor. And Prue's on the couch and she's making a phone call to one of her friends who she finds out is at work. And then she starts kind of just moving a vase back and forth on the mantle using her powers. Then the phone rings and she starts to answer it. She's like, Prue Hallowell, hello. And it's Phoebe calling from school. And she's like, how's the life of leisure going? And Prue says it's great. I don't know why you ever gave it up. Phoebe says that only the house is only big enough for one homebound Hallowell. Then she says she's on her way to class, but wanted to know if Brooke or Andrea or Tessa called. Prue says no, and she says that that's weird. They never showed up for our section today. Then she notices like the pig guy is flipping out at the guy at the hot dog stand and then like picks up all the hot dogs and like throws them and is like, be free, my brothers, and like all this stuff. And Phoebe's laughing. And then Prue asks if Phoebe wants to meet for lunch or after class they could go to the gym or something. And that's when Phoebe notices that Rabbit is attacking some girl. So she hangs up on Prue. Then she walks over and like taps on Rabbit's shoulder and she's like, hey, is there a problem? And when she touches him, she gets a premonition of a guy biting a girl's neck. Then he turns around and like goes to like punch Phoebe in the face and she ducks and knocks him over with a kick. Then he runs away and she goes over to the girl and asks if she's okay. And when the girl says that she's fine, Phoebe chases after him. But when she gets to him, he's like jumped up a wall and they stare at each other for a second and then he runs away and then she goes in the opposite direction.
Yeah, so obviously something suspicious going on at this point to Phoebe. I mean, this guy just jumped over this really big wall in like the blink of an eye. I mean, technically Phoebe didn't see the jump, but she was right behind him, and when she got there he was on top of this wall. I would be lost.
Yeah.
So then we obviously see Prue starting to have her difficulties, not being in the work life anymore, her being like not able to answer the phone calls like she normally does, and her basically begging Phoebe to hang out with her. Like,
I feel like I kind of had the opposite problem. Like, how Prue like goes to answer her phone is like, Prue, hello. Like, I feel like when I go to answer the phone, like at work, I'm like, yo.
yeah, I know. I know, I'm always prepared to be like, what's up? Or like, hey. And I have to do this whole long like thing. And I have two different jobs, so when someone calls one place, I'll like almost say the name of the other place that I have to answer the phone. So it's, yeah, I'm a mess with that. Honestly though, I think I am like that, where I do have that problem, because I'll even, it's so weird, but I'll go to drive-throughs, and when I was a hostess, like every day I was answering phone calls all day long. And I was getting so used to it that like I would pull up to a drive-through window and they'd be like, "Hey, how can I help you?" And I'd be like, "Tony D's, what can I do for you?" Like I almost like I said it one time, and I almost said it so many times. Like it gets stuck in your head really easily. But that's just me, and I guess Prue.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, I mean, I want to talk a little bit about just what happened between Rabbit and that girl that he was like attacking. So I feel like the show is going to make way too light of that situation when it comes up again later. Like, they're just kind of like, I mean, they haven't said it yet, but whatever. Spoiler to later in the episode when they're like, oh, there was some drunk frat guy like harassing a girl. Like, that should have been a bigger deal than it was.
Yeah.
Like,
It
what?
definitely should have. They kind of breezed through that really quickly. Like it was nothing, but I mean, this girl was in broad daylight being attacked. Like,
And the
wasn't
fact that like Phoebe's the only one who
I
seemed to
know.
like give a fuck about it too. Like, there were lots of people around.
That's what I was thinking too. Like, how is Phoebe the only one that tried to stop this? I mean, it was honestly pretty fucked up, like the situation, and they were pretty light about it, and that was kind of a little weird to me.
And like part of I think what's upsetting about it is that it is kind of realistic. Like there are these types of issues on college campuses, right? Where there's like a culture of like harassment and all this kind of stuff going on and like people not doing enough to respond to it. So I think like the show depicting it, like, yeah, it's kind of realistic, but it's really like awful that they're not making more of a comment on it. They're just like, oh, he's just some drunk frat guy. Like, can we not excuse like drunk frat guys for what they do, or like drunk any guys for what they do?
Yeah, no, I totally agree. It definitely should have been acknowledged a lot more. I mean, I appreciate that they had Phoebe defend her, but aside from that, they didn't really comment about it, and nobody else came to her aid. And the girl, like, it was kind of sad the way the girl after was like, "Oh yeah, I'm okay," and just leaves, like it was so natural, you
Yeah.
know? Like, well, these things just happen to us, doesn't it? Like, that's so horrible. She was like really, like, I'd be like, "Holy shit!" Like, I can't believe that someone just did that to me, you know? Like, in the middle of the day outside, like, how did that even happen? I'd be kind of like freaked out about it and stressed out. And
Yeah.
the girl was kind of very casual, like, yeah, like, I'm fine, and just walked away. Like, damn, you just got full on attacked. Like, what?
Yeah.
Like, is this just a daily thing? It's horrible.
Yeah, it's really bad that it's just like, again, treated so casually, and like there's not really much follow-up or reaction to it at all.
Exactly. So, unfortunate, but we're here to acknowledge it for all of our listeners.
Yeah, exactly.
So now we are at P3, and Prue is walking in and sees Piper making decorations, and they kind of make some jokes with each other. And then Prue asks her if she needs help with anything, and Piper's like, "What happened to doing nothing?" And Prue's like, "I'm finished." I was like, "You can't finish doing nothing." And then she's like, "So how do you know when you're done?" And then Piper kind of moves on and starts telling her about the gift that she got Dan, and says that it's a book on San Francisco architecture. And she's like, I know, it's a little too impersonal for Valentine's Day, but. And Prue's like, no, no, it shows that you know him. It's perfect for him. What did you get Leo? She's like, Leo, but should I? Tonight? And Prue's like, yeah. Then Phoebe comes running down the stairs, and she's like, okay, guess what I saw on Phoebe TV? And Piper says, no, not a premonition. It's Valentine's Day. Can't there be some sort of supernatural day off? And Prue asks what she saw, and then she tells them about the guy and her vision. And Piper says, biting or kissing? It's that time of year. It could have been kissing. Then Phoebe starts to kind of question herself a little, and she's like, well, maybe. And Piper's like, most people kiss on Valentine's Day, except, of course, for witches. Witches don't get to kiss on Valentine's Day because something always comes up. Prue says, okay, so maybe it was just some fat guy and his chick of the moment. Oh my god, that's so disgusting.
Yeah.
Yikes. And then Phoebe says, yeah, maybe it just wasn't very clear. And then I followed him, and I think he jumped over this wall. And she's like, well, there was a ladder pretty close. And Piper says, Phoebe, come on. Doesn't anybody care that I have dinner plans tonight with Dan? And holds up the book. And Phoebe's like, oh, honey, is that what he got you? I mean, it's nice and all. It's just a little impersonal. And then Piper groans and puts her head down on the book. Phoebe's like, what did she get for Leo? What did you get Leo? And Piper throws the book at her, throws a bow at her. It was really funny. I thought that was a funny sister moment.
Yeah. No, this scene
Definitely.
overall was really good. I mean, like you pointed out, Prue's comment, but
Yeah, it was a little grosser than I thought.
yeah.
And Phoebe's like, yeah, maybe. Like, yeah, that was, no, that's not okay.
Yeah. And I mean, like, I'll be the first to admit, like, I was in Greek life in college. I know what the culture is, but like, still, come on. It's a gross line.
Yeah, no, that was definitely not good.
But otherwise, I mean, okay, so the book thing, I have a question for you. So, like, I feel like Valentine's Day is all about getting impersonal gifts. Like, who's going out and getting the most thoughtful gift ever for someone for Valentine's Day?
Yeah, I don't think, honestly, I feel like Piper's gift is a little more personal than usual gifts that people get on Valentine's Day. I mean, it's usually just flowers, candy, things like that. But that's like what it's supposed to be, you know? Like
Exactly.
it's like a cheesy day, you know? And
Like, what
then,
did I get the person I like for Valentine's Day? Chocolate and a card. Like,
yeah. Literally, I got for Valentine's Day, I got chocolates and roses and a balloon. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's
Like you don't get people like these, like that's more like what you get for like a birthday or like Christmas or something, not Valentine's Day.
exactly like it's not supposed to be something personal. I mean, maybe for them it's different. Maybe.
Maybe.
I don't know, but I feel like you go all out for like the birthday or Christmas or you know what I mean, like for gifts like that. It's not Valentine's Day is more just like a cheesy day you get to enjoy together. It's not doesn't need to
Yeah.
be all
Like at
personal.
the most personal thing you're gonna get someone for Valentine's Day is maybe like a nice like jewelry or something, but you're not
Yeah,
gonna get someone
exactly.
like, the most thoughtful, amazing gift for Valentine's Day.
Exactly. I totally agree. It felt a little weird, but the whole situation, like about Leo and everything, was funny. And it
But
is
also,
like
why are they pushing that she gets something for Leo? They're
I
not
was
together.
just about to say that. They're both over there like, why like where's your gift for Leo? Where's your gift for Leo? Like that's a bit fucked up, right? Like if you get someone else a gift for Valentine's Day, is that not like low-key cheating? Like I'd be like,
I was thinking the same thing. Like, yeah,
and
let me
even
get my
later on,
boyfriend and my ex both a gift for Valentine's Day.
that's so weird. Like that's super weird. Like I know Leo's around, but they're not together. Why would she get him something? And then later on when it comes up again in front of Dan and everything, I'll have more to say about what we were discussing before, but I guess I'll just wait till we get there. But yeah, I think I felt that it was very weird that they both like thought it was so natural that she should get Leo something. Like
Yeah.
because at this point, like maybe if it was a fresh new relationship with Dan still and things were still kind of being figured out with Leo, but like we're past that. Like you are in a committed relationship with Dan and Leo and you were like supposed to be done, you know? Like
And also, like, Leo made it very clear last episode, like, oh, I'm gonna fight for you. Like, wouldn't getting him a Valentine be leading him on that he has a chance?
yeah, it's definitely a little fucked up. But to be fair, Piper's over here thinking like, really? Like you think I should? So
Yeah.
at least she was able to acknowledge that it's weird, but both her sisters are telling her to get something, so she's, we'll see what
Yeah.
happens.
No, I'm going to be very real with all our listeners. The only people I get Valentines for are very close friends, family members, and the like my love interest or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. That's the only person that's gonna get something from me for Valentine's Day. I mean, my grandma sends me a card. And my mom used to get us gifts when we were like little, but why I don't know, like
I mean, like, I get like a thing of chocolates for like my mom, for Ash, for Aunt, you know what I mean? Because they're like my
yeah.
family that I know I'm gonna see on that day. And like, if I make like a couple of times I've like made friends or made plans with friends on Valentine's Day, then I got them like chocolate or something.
Right.
But
Like
like,
if
I
I'll do
don't,
like a Galentine's Day type thing with my
yeah.
friends, then I'll get them like something small like that too.
But I'm not out here just like giving like, oh, like my friends or like people I like used to talk to, like
Yeah,
Valentine's.
I know. Like let me get a gift for all of my exes and everyone I've ever spoken to in my life. Like definitely felt off. But overall that was like a really cute sister moment. I think generally I liked the conversation between them. Felt nice to me, felt natural.
Yeah, and I like, Piper kind of be like, come on, like I have Valentine's Day plans. Like,
Yeah. Phoebe's whole reaction too. It's funny.
so then we're in the hallway of the dorm, and Andrea, Brooke, and Tessa are all walking together. Tessa's upset that they missed their class section and, that the spell worked. Andrea wants them to all go find their dates. Tessa thinks that they need to turn them back. And Brooke says, chill, we'll just wait until midnight and they'll turn back on their own. And then Andrea opens the door to their room. Inside, we see that the guys are sitting on the couch holding the spell book. Snake asks what this means. Andrea says it's a spell, that's what made you human. Then Rabbit holds up his hands. We see that his fingers are turning into like claws. And he's like, yes, but for how long? And he jumps up and seems really upset. And Snake's like, he asked you a question. Brooke says 24 hours, but now it's more like 12. Snake stands up and he says, well, fix it. We've decided we'd like to stay this way. And Rabbit says, yeah, we're having fun. And he's like weirdly sniffing Tessa's hair as he says this. And Andrea's like, sure looks like it. Now, am I wrong here? But aren't you supposed to be mine? And Snake's like, aren't you having fun, Andrea? You know, you could have much more fun if we had more time. And Brooke says that she might know how, or at least know someone who might know how to make it last longer. She brings the flyer for the party over to Rabbit and says that Phoebe will be there tonight and that she's like the person who would know. And then Andrea's like, wait, I have the class roster. I know where she lives. And like, what?
I
I
know.
don't know where my students live. They don't know where each other lives. Like, that's not a thing.
That's so weird.
Like, it never just lists someone's home address. That's super a violation of your privacy, but okay.
I know, on the class roster, just for everyone to know. Like, what
Like,
the
maybe
hell?
if it had, like, her home phone number or something, but, like, why would it have her home address?
Yeah. Also,
But,
why does she want to go there so bad? Like, just see her at the party. Like, that's mad weird if you just show up and you're like, hey, help us turn these guys, like, into humans forever. Like, what?
yeah, so weird. But then, okay, apparently they're just gonna go to her house because Snake's like, show us the way. And Pig's like, we're gonna eat though, right? And Tessa's like, guys, I really don't think we should be messing around with this. And then Snake tells Brooke and Andrea to go ahead with Pig. And Rabbit grabs Tessa. And then Snake's like, now why do you have to be such a little troublemaker? And like grabs her as well.
Yeah, so, bit of a problem here. I feel like the girls, first of all, are acting way too calm about this. Like, I, first of all, these guys are very obviously being creepy and scary and aggressive towards each other, and the way that they grabbed Tessa and just kept going like that was nothing. Like, I don't know if they're just used to that type of behavior from guys, but super weird. Way too casual, and they're just kind of going along with it like this is still some sort of game when obviously it's being problematic. Tessa's the only one that's acknowledging it. And on top of all that, if I had just found out that, like, holy shit, I can turn animals into humans, like, what, like, magic's real, I'd be so much more focused on that. I'd be
Yeah.
freaking the fuck out. I'd be like, holy shit, how did this actually just happen? Like, I can't believe you guys are still standing here right in front of me and this is happening in front of my face. Like, it'd be nuts
Yeah,
to me.
no, these girls' priorities are a little questionable. I mean, like, so what we're gathering from this, right, is they like made these animals into people, hooked up with them, and then just like were separated from them all day. Now they're being like weird, they're being aggressive, like all this stuff, like, and that's just like super casual, super normal. Like, let's go bring him to our friend's house.
Yeah, it's definitely very, very unrealistic and like weird to me. Like, hopefully, I would hope no one would actually act like this. And also, yes, they're attractive, but if I turned an animal to a human, I would feel so weird hooking up with them, you know? Like, I'd be like, well, you're technically not a person. Like, you really are just a fucking house pet. Like, I would feel like that's bestiality, and I don't think I could do it. I don't think I could get
Yeah.
myself to go through with that.
Yeah, no, the morals of this are very questionable.
Yeah.
Um, because it's also like, okay, you like cast a love spell on somebody, which is already like rapey, but they're also not human. So there's that aspect of it as
I
well. But then they're also like the rapey ones. Like there's a lot going on here. And like when you really think too deep into it, it's just like, what the actual fuck
yeah, I
should
know.
even be my like emotional response to this?
I know. Like, how are we supposed to think that this is real or normal? I mean, is this just classic college? Like,
I mean, honestly, when I was in college, every other weekend, this is what I was doing. So totally relatable.
totally understandable. No, yeah, this definitely super weird, but you know, for plot's sake, we go along with it as we always do.
Yeah. But also, like,
Scared.
I'm really scared. Like, in this moment, I feel like if I was a first time viewer, I'd be like really scared that they were going to kill Tessa.
That's what I was just about to say. Like, I'm kind of nervous for Tessa right now. Like, what are they gonna do to her?
And like, I couldn't imagine seeing these guys acting so aggressively, so rude, like all this stuff, and then leaving them alone in a room with my friend.
No. That's so messed up.
Like, these girls are not good friends at
No.
all.
That's terrible. And then we'll see in the next scene when they get to the manor, like that's when they start to show a little concern, and it's kind of like, fuck you guys, where was this when you were leaving? And it was right in front of your eyes that
No,
they grabbed
literally.
her. Like Andrea looked back and saw and like smiled. Like,
Yeah.
even though Tess has made it very clear multiple times how uncomfortable she is with this whole situation. Like, what the fuck are you guys doing?
Yeah.
Evil. Never, I would never talk to these people again.
No, definitely not. Like, they would no longer be my roommates. I would be moving out that same day.
That's what I'm saying. So now we are at this store, and Piper and Phoebe walk in with coffees, and Piper thanks Phoebe for keeping her company. And Phoebe's like, oh, better here than at the club with Prue. The boredom has turned her into the demon of decoration. And then they stop in front of the Valentine's Day cards, and Piper says, why don't they make a card that says, you used to be my white lighter, and now your wings are clipped, and you're sleeping in my club? And Phoebe says, or how about you snooze, you lose, and now I'm getting naked with the neighbor. And Piper hits her in the arm. And then they start looking through cards, and Phoebe notices the same spell book that the girls had in school and points it out to Piper. And then she's like, we are so in right now. And Piper's like, we are not in, love is. And this stuff gives people hope that they can find it. And Phoebe's like, yeah, the problem is people think they can get into magic without dealing with the consequences. Then Piper says, but this stuff, none of it's like in the Book of Shadows. I mean, for one thing, it doesn't really work. Normal people can't make this work, right? And then Phoebe kind of has a realization, and she says, not without a little help. And then she says, I need to go call Prue. I think I need her help with something. And Piper's like, something to do? She'll be thrilled. And Phoebe runs off, and Piper goes back by the cards, and she sees one that says, for you, always. And she goes, now that's a card. Then she picks up one that says, to a dear friend, and she takes it. And then the camera moves over, and we see Leo in the next aisle holding that same card that says, for you, always, and he takes it. So meant to be.
I know the fact that like they both are touched by the same card, I'm like soulmate shit.
I
Like,
know, seriously. Like, ugh. And he's there picking out a card for her too. But like, tell me he didn't hear that entire conversation. Like,
that's what I was wondering though, because I was kind of like, oh, like did Leo overhear this?
yeah, like he's right there in the next aisle.
But he definitely wouldn't have seen her holding the card, so he doesn't know which card she picked. So that's why I'm
No, I
like,
know. I just meant the whole
that part,
conversation
like,
about like
yeah. But
getting
yeah, no,
naked with the
like
neighbor.
that part, I'm like, oh, and also like that she's there picking out a card for him.
Yeah, I know exactly. And he's there picking out the card for her, and they both pick up the same one. But it's just too cute.
Yeah. Also, I really like that card. Like, if someone got me that card, I'd be like, okay, perfect, beautiful. Like, I
Yeah,
agree with them. It's a very sweet card.
like that's cute. But also, like, do they not see each other? Like, they both grab the card and walk to checkout, no? Like, within 2 seconds of each other? Like, are they not in line right behind each other?
Good question.
But anyways, guess it doesn't really matter. But here, at least Phoebe's starting to kind of put it together, what happened. It felt a little like, okay, like, that's a leap, but, it's fine.
Yeah, I didn't really get how she thought it yet either. Like, I feel like they could have waited until a couple scenes later
Yeah,
for
exactly.
her to realize. But, whatever. She had to pick up on it somehow.
I try to think of it like when moments like this happen, I try to kind of excuse it as like, okay, well, maybe because of their powers and their witches and destiny or whatever, like they just have this really strong intuition and kind of learn to listen to themselves when it happens. And that's kind of how. So we'll just call it that, I guess.
Yeah, I could chalk it up to that. So then we're back at P3, and Piper walks in, and the club is totally empty. She notices there are like little rose petals on the floor, and it all leads to this curtain. And behind the curtain, there's this fancy table all set up, and Dan is there. And he's like, I'm sure this will ruin the dinner that I'm going to buy you tonight. And she's like, you're so sweet. And there's like a wine that he found that was named Piper. So that, like, that's why he picked it out. And he's like, this is our first holiday. Granted, the holiday invented by Hallmark, but first, it's just the same. And like, he kind of like holds up two glasses for them and they like clink them. And she hides the card she has like kind of behind her back. And he's like, oh, is that for me? And then he like takes it and opens it. And like, Piper just looks super nervous. And it says to a dear friend on Valentine's Day, he's like, Piper, it's good to know that you're deeply in like with me. And then he's like, it isn't for me. It's for Leo, isn't it? And she looks down and she's like, what do you want me to say? He's like, how about no? She's like, Dan, you read it. Read it again. It says to a friend. And I'm sorry, but I'm not interested in ending that particular friendship. And, Dan's like, I'm not sure that's all he sees it as. She's like, I come with a past. We all do. It's a package, one I would like to share with you, but you can't pick and choose. You get all of me. And he says, do I? And then she says she has to work and she'll see him tonight. And he says, fine, and leaves. So I'm totally on Dan's side in this scene. I'm sorry.
That's
but
what I'm
like,
saying. Like, Piper, what do you mean? Like, how are you gonna defend yourself? Like, what do you want me to say? It says that he's to a friend, and I don't want to end that friendship. That's so sus, bitch. And on Valentine's Day, like, you're getting him, like, right in front of Dan, you're showing him that you got another man, your ex, a gift on Valentine's Day. That would be the end for me. That would be the end. And at least
yeah.
he showed a little more anger here, but still, Dan, so casual. For what? For what?
Yeah.
Like, that was actually really fucked up on Piper's part when you think about it. I would be pissed.
Yeah. And like, honestly, like, I feel like the way Dan reacts is pretty close to how I would react in like this type of situation because I feel like you really do want to give the person the benefit of the doubt. So you're kind
Yeah.
of like trying, but like everything she's saying is just getting more and more suspicious.
It just sounds worse and worse. Like, her defense is really dumb, you know?
And like Dan's totally in the right. He's like, I don't think that Leo sees it as a friendship. Like Dan is right. Leo does not see it as a friendship.
Exactly.
And she's like, oh, I
Obviously
have a
doesn't
past. It's
either.
not your past if you guys are still fucking hanging out all the time. He's living at your club. Like,
Yeah, it's not past, it's
this is
present.
the present, babe.
Like, this is happening right now before our eyes. Like, Piper could have done a little better there, I think. She
Yeah.
could have been she should have been way more understanding on Dane's perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of doesn't. Like, she just kind of jumps to defend herself. And it makes me feel really bad for Dan because poor guy, like, it's really not fair to him.
Yeah. And I feel like this is one of those situations where, like, okay, if we were watching the show, right? And Piper was the guy and Dan was the girl, and this was the situation that was happening, we would hate Piper so much as a guy acting like this.
Exactly. We'd be like, what an asshole, you know? And nobody seems to see it that way for Piper. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, the first few watches, I never really noticed it because I guess I was kind of always rooting for Leo. But realistically, I don't know. Piper's pretty fucked up here.
Yeah, like I really can't support what she's doing here. And like I also do feel bad because I feel like she's being kind of pushed into it. Like her sisters were like, "Oh, what are you getting Leo? What are you getting Leo? Like you have to get something for him." So like they're kind of encouraging this bad behavior, but like she's still acting in this way. And it's like if you and Leo are really friends, like act like friends. Don't get him
Exactly.
a Valentine. Don't like have this stuff in front of Dan. Like
Feed into it, like, and there's so much that I would question at this point. Like, why didn't you tell me you guys were working together if it's not a big deal? You know?
yeah.
Why didn't you tell me you were gonna get him a gift, or why did you get him a gift on Valentine's Day if nothing's going on? You know, like why did he get you flowers? Why all of this, you know? And I don't know. I really don't know how Dan's continuing on like this at this point.
Yeah, because like there even are defenses. Like, what if Piper was the type of person who just gets everyone like a gift? What if she'd gotten all her employees a gift, her sisters, everyone? Then it would be one thing. But it's like, no, you went out of your way to just get Leo a gift.
Exactly. And That's a bit much.
Also, though, like, okay, one line of Dan's I didn't like was when he was like, oh, like, it'll ruin the dinner I'm gonna buy you tonight. Like, why do you need to bring up that you're gonna buy her dinner?
Yeah, I guess, but I didn't really. I don't know if he meant it like.
I know he didn't, and it's not his character that I'm disliking, it's the writing there. I just didn't like that
Yeah,
line.
yeah, like the dinner I'm gonna buy you tonight. Like, okay.
Like, okay.
And it kind of sucks too because like it's very clear that he's like going out of his way doing the most for her for Valentine's Day. And I mean, what did he get? What did she get him? A book? Like, oh, sure, I guess she'll give that to him later at dinner, but like she didn't really do anything, and he's like going crazy over here for her, showing how much he cares and everything.
Yeah.
Like, it
Okay,
kind
but
of
also
sucks.
this might low-key sound like sexist, but like isn't Valentine's Day more kind of for girls than guys?
No, it totally is, but what I'm saying is he's just going out of his way. Like, I didn't get my boyfriend anything on Valentine's Day. But he also like didn't go crazy, you know? Like it was just like a little gift and then we spent time together. Like it was
Yeah.
that's all we wanted, you know? It wasn't but Dan is like going ham over here and it does suck though cuz I feel like he's got this idea in his head and he's kind of trying to force it. I think that's why he's moving things so quickly and kind of pushing things. Like I feel like Piper must feel a lot of pressure because he has put a lot on her in such an early amount of time, even though he's been trying to be like laid back. It's like saying she can move in, doing the most. It's like he's really desperate to get her attention, it feels like.
Yeah. You know what my other question is in the writing? Because I feel like this show is not very good with timelines. When Dan says that this is their first holiday together, but Valentine's Day is only 6 weeks after Christmas and like New Year's and stuff. You guys have definitely been dating more than 6 weeks. Like you were definitely together Thanksgiving,
Yeah.
Christmas, New Year's.
Yeah, that's so weird. And they don't do Thanksgiving, Christmas, or New Year's in this show at all.
Yeah, I know they don't do holiday episodes, but like they could still acknowledge that they were dating during that
Yeah,
time
like
period.
during a holiday. Yeah, I didn't even realize that he said that. I'm really curious because I don't even know how long they've been together for. I really don't,
Yeah.
you know?
But like, okay, so we can assume they started dating what, episode like 7-ish,
Yeah.
I think is when they kind of became official. And we can assume that was around October or November. So like they were definitely together, like maybe Halloween, definitely Thanksgiving, definitely Christmas, definitely New Year's.
Yeah. And didn't they wasn't the episode with the stone
Hmm.
with Misha Collins?
Yeah.
They were dating then, right? That was after?
Yeah, I think they were. Oh yeah,
Cause
and that was after
he's
Halloween.
cause
Because
she said at
Phoebe
the
was
end
like,
like
oh, that was the
2 weeks
Halloween
ago
party 2 weeks
Halloween part.
ago. Yeah.
Exactly. So that I don't know, I was just trying to gauge. Like I'm pretty sure that
So they've had plenty of holidays together.
yeah, definitely doesn't make any sense.
Like it could have been like, oh, this is our first like no, because like New Year's is also kind of a romantic holiday.
Yeah.
Like no, like this is not
Yeah,
your
they
first holiday together.
they didn't have to say this at all. Maybe they didn't spend those holidays together, but no, I don't know. You know,
If
it
I was
doesn't make
dating
sense.
someone and they didn't spend New Year's with me, I would be pissed.
Yeah, exactly, right? Like that's super weird. But whatever. Not the first thing in the show that hasn't or like added up too well.
Yeah.
All right. So then we go back to the manor and Rabbit just punches a hole through the window and opens the front door and Brooke and Andrea think that it's too much. Shocker. I mean, like duh. Bitch like finally. And Snake's like rules like cages are meant to be broken. And then they think the guys are acting crazy and Andrea's like, "Look, Tessa looked fine, but if she's really not feeling well like you said, we should go home or at least call her." And Snake says, "Not yet, we need Phoebe." And Pig peels some of like Snake's skin off, and Pig's hands kind of start turning into hooves, and they're starting to slowly change back into animals. And Andrea said Tessa was right, we shouldn't have done this. Then Snake grabs her and bite her, and she passes out. And then Pig looks upset, and Rabbit grabs Brooke. And Pig's like, guys, stop, this isn't fun anymore. And Rabbit's like, yes, it is. And Snake says, next time you want a dangerous man, you might want to make sure he's not poisonous. And he bites her neck, and she passes out too. Then Pig asks if they're dead, like kind of concerned, and Snake's like they will be, and he's over there crying. And then Rabbit asks if they need them and Phoebe for the spell, and he says 4 hours until we turn back, 4 hours until they die from the poison. I think that information might motivate this Phoebe to help us. And Pig is like freaking out at this point and says he wants to go home. And then they circle him, and Snake bites him too, and he passes out, and then they laugh. So things kind of escalated pretty quickly.
This, like, them just being like, oh, they said that Tessa didn't feel good. Like, you believed them?
Yeah, I know. Like, it was a bit much, and just now they're starting to think that this is a bad idea. Like, I mean, I kind of feel bad, but, like, also, you guys, like, you guys shouldn't have let it get this far, you know? Not that it's okay that this is happening to them, but like, you guys, like, why would you allow them to come and break into somebody's house? Like, why wouldn't you pay attention when Tessa's freaking out and then all of a sudden just isn't there because she doesn't feel good? Come on. Like,
Yeah. Like, I do feel bad that, like, they're getting attacked and they might die.
exactly.
Like, I'm worried for them. But at the same time, it's kind of like, you guys were really doing too much to be on these guys' sides, like, up until 5
Yeah,
minutes ago.
exactly. Like, you just 2 seconds ago decided that, like, maybe this isn't such a great idea, which not that it makes what's happening to you okay, but like you guys should have kind of maybe tried to take action a little bit beforehand, you know?
Yeah, because I feel like if this had happened back at the apartment where they were attacked, like, I would have felt so much worse for them because I'd have been like, oh my God, they didn't deserve this. Like,
Yeah,
not saying they deserve it, but like, they really were just like doing too much to support them and like not recognizing the signs that these guys were evil early enough.
yeah, like you guys are a little guilty here too, you know? You're the reason they're after Phoebe and all of this. Like, you're the reason Tessa got into this situation in the first place. Like, why have you not like why were you so quick to be on their side the whole time when they proved that they were fucking nutcases?
Also, wait, the fact that like they're like a snake, I could see being an evil animal, right? But like, why is the rabbit an evil animal?
Dude, I know. The rabbit's like making me think twice about them damn like cute little rabbit.
Like,
Why are you
apparently
so
evil
evil?
rabbit. Like,
I
damn.
know. Like damn. So messed up.
And
But
then
whatever.
poor pig, he
Yes.
was trying to do the right thing here.
Yeah. Poor pig really is just like a decent guy, a decent animal, I guess.
Yeah, like he just wanted to eat and hang out.
I know. He just wanted to chill. He was just along for the ride.
So then we're in the dorm hallway, and Prue and Phoebe walk in together. And Prue's like, since when do mortals cast spells that actually work? And Phoebe's like, look, I know that the book is probably a total cheese fest, but what if? I mean, the spell called for living objects, my premonition, and that guy who could leap tall buildings in a single bound. Something is wrong, I know it. And then a guy like walks past them in a towel, and Prue's like, ooh, higher education. Maybe I need to come back to college to study something. Which again, how old is this guy?
I know.
Concerning Prue, you're almost 30. But whatever. So then they bump into Ethan, which we find out is the name of that guy that Phoebe has a crush on from class. And Phoebe asks what happened to his head because there's like a cut there. And he's like, oh, some drunk frat guy. And Prue's like, yeah, seems to be a lot of that going around. And Phoebe introduces the two of them, and he says that he just knocked on the girl's door and no one was home. He's like, I thought I'd give them a little hell for missing our section today. I mean, Andrea and Brooke would totally bail, but it doesn't really seem like Tessa. Then again, it is Valentine's Day. Maybe they had something better to do. And Phoebe's like, do you? And then Prue's kind of like, oh, like we need to go, whatever. And he tells Phoebe that he'll see her tonight, and she's all smiley. Then they go into the dorm room, and like Prue makes a sex joke about their parents and like opens the door with their powers. And then they go in, and the room is totally trashed. And like Prue kind of comments on this, and Phoebe's like, oh, I don't think that they're the ones that did this. Then they find the spell book, and they hear like crying coming from the closet, and they find like Tessa, and she's like in a cage and like gagged and everything.
I wonder why they bit Andrea and Brooke, but not Tessa.
I was wondering the same thing.
Like they just
I
put her in
guess
a
it's because
cage.
for plot's sake they needed Tessa's help, so she needed to be.
True. Good point. So I thought that was pretty cute, the little interaction between Phoebe and Ethan. She's obviously a little into him, and Prue's comment, kind of funny, but also, like you said, like, babe, you're almost 30, like, let's calm down. Aside from that, they're kind of beginning to put things together.
So then we're at the manor, and all of a sudden it's nighttime, which this is one of those things where when we move forward to like a different portion of the day, I'm like, did they just not talk for the last 5 hours that they were together? But whatever. So Phoebe and Prue are walking into the dining room with Tessa, and they sit down at the table. And Phoebe's like, look, Tessa, I know you've been through that. What you've been through has been really hard, but the only way we can help is if you tell us what happened. And she's like, there's no way you'd understand. And Prue says, you won't find two more understanding people in this particular instance. So she tells them about the spell and turning the animals into guys. And Phoebe asks if they did it from a spell in the book. And Tessa says, yeah, and we even played back the tape that we were recording in class so we could hear your corrections to the spell. But before we had a chance to chant the new version, there they were. And Phoebe realizes what happened and turns to Prue. Prue just asks Tessa what she thinks the guys want. She says she doesn't know and like blames herself, but Phoebe tells her that it's not her fault and that they'll fix it.
Yeah, I didn't really think about it that, like, that entire time they hadn't, like, just now, Tessa's telling them what happened, and it's like nighttime hours later.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about that.
But also, I have so many questions about the timeline in this episode, which I'll get to later on. But also, okay, so we find out that there's 4 hours till the spell wears off. So it was 8 p.m., but also, like, it was daytime. Like, there's just so many questions I have about
Yeah,
time in this episode.
didn't make any sense. And it's not like it's summer where it gets darker later or something like that.
Yeah, like, no, it was full on daytime, and they were like, 4 hours till the spell wears off. Like, no.
Yeah, they should have kind of made that add up a little bit better.
Yeah.
All right, but now they have all the information and obviously figured out how this actually happened because of the recording. So then we are in the kitchen, and Phoebe goes to get medical supplies, and she hears something, and she opens the pantry, and the pig just falls out on top of her, and his nose had like turned back into a pig nose. And then Prue and Tessa run in, and Tessa said he was one of them, except he didn't look like that. And Prue says the spell must be wearing off. And then Phoebe's like, they're starting to look and act more like animals. And Prue says if they killed one of their own, there's no telling what they're going to do or what they already have done to your friends. And Phoebe says, do you know what they want? And Tessa's like, you. They're having fun and they want to stay this way. And Andrea told them that you'd be able to help them. And Phoebe asks where they are, and Tessa tells them that they're at the party at P3.
Mm-hmm.
Dun dun dun. Piper's gonna be pissed.
True. She does not want you guys bringing your demon situations into her club. She's made that clear many times.
Yeah, she don't fuck with the demons at the club. And then it cuts to like a little clip outside where Snake and Rabbit are like flagging down a car, and this guy pulls over and asks if they need any help, and they say that they're out of gas, and then they like attack and kill him. Mad unnecessary. And then they open the trunk where the girls are and tell them that they have a new set of wheels, and kind of go to move them into the other car.
Yeah. So again, I mean, both of these scenes are really just pushing the plot forward to get us to the scene at P3.
Exactly.
So then we're at P3, and Piper's behind the bar, and she's on the phone with Prue, and she's like, the place is full of snakes. How am I supposed to pick out the right one? Did I mention I have dinner plans with Dan? Okay, you're 5 minutes away. Okay, as fast as you can would be good. Then we see that Leo's standing behind her and she turns to him. He asks her if everything's okay. She says, of course not. Prue and Phoebe have found a problem. Two of them actually, and they're bringing their dates here. Leo's like, on the night when you have a date of your own, huh? And she's like, just earmark anyone looking for Phoebe. They're coming here to try and find her. And he nods. That's when Ethan walks up and asks for Phoebe. And Piper tells him she'll be there any minute and that he should go sit down and wait, so he does. Leo asks if that Piper thinks that that's him. She says could be. He says to let him help, and she says no, Leo, thank you. But now that you've lost your wings, I don't want you to get hurt. And then he sighs and sees Dan walking in, so he walks away. Dan comes over to Piper and is like, "Are you my Valentine?" She's like, I hope so, especially after. And he's like, today? Well, tonight's tonight. And she tells him, wait. And he's upset. He's like, let me guess. It's something with your sisters. Or maybe you'll be vague and just say something important's come up. Or my favorite of all time, it's a matter of life and death. She's like, actually, what I was going to say, if you would let me, is I'm running a little late and could you please wait for me at the bar? And he looks down because now he feels bad about flipping out on her. And she pats his shoulder and just like walks past. That's when we see Snake and Rabbit come in down the stairs and they start grabbing people and asking if they're Phoebe and they're kind of like sniffing the air and stuff. Then Phoebe, Prue, and Tessa walk in and Leo approaches them. He tells them that Piper is de stressing in the alcove and they leave Tessa with him. Then Prue asks Phoebe how the spell is coming. She's like, it'd be a lot better if I could get my hands on a pinch of the salt of life. And Leo goes, we got the salt of margarita. Phoebe's like, I'll take it. Then Tessa asks Leo who he is, and he says he's just a friend. Then we see like the musician starts playing on stage and dancing, and the guys are still going through the crowd while Ethan is sitting at the bar.
So, whole interaction with Dan comes back casual again, like tonight's
Again,
tonight.
Dan is just the most forgiving person out there. He's like, you know what? Tonight's tonight. Like, we're good.
Yeah, like I can never. Props to him.
I
Um,
honestly, I feel like that's what I do in situations. Like, you know a lot about my relationship. Our listeners don't, but like, I feel like that's how I act. Like, I'll get mad about something, and then a few hours later, I'll just kind of be like, you know what? That was before. This is now. Like, I'm good. Like, he just needs his moment to kind of like freak out, and then he comes back like calm and collected.
yeah, I not very me. I need to work things out, work through things before I can just move on.
Yeah, which is totally fair.
I don't let people just piss me off and, you know, like especially in a relationship, it's like, well, this is obviously a reoccurring problem. Like I am going to talk about this with you and figure it out, you know?
Yeah, because that's the thing too, because it's not even like this is like the first or second time this has come up. Like it's kind of a recurring issue for them. So like, and this is what I mean when I talk about like sometimes Dan and Piper have really poor communication in their relationship, which I
Yeah,
feel like is the real issue in the relationship more so than the secret. Which I mean, the
I
secret is
definitely.
part of their communication issue, but like the fact that neither of them can ever talk about their problems is the bigger issue.
Yeah, it's definitely a problem. But I do understand his little moment about like, oh great, like what is it this time? This, and this. Like, I mean, she
Mhm.
does do it to him all the time, so
Yeah, and I like how like she's low key gaslighting him because she's like,
I know.
actually,
Like, damn Viper, you've already fucked up so many times today, and you do that to him all the time. Like, how you gonna act like he's the one in the wrong here?
yeah.
Poor Dan.
But her little moment with Leo was really sweet when she was like, "No, like you're mortal now. Like I don't want you to get hurt." Like I
Yeah,
got that because we even saw when he was a white lighter, she didn't want him to get that involved because she wanted to protect him. So obviously now that he's human, she like feels that even stronger.
exactly. It definitely makes sense. Aside from that, the little salt of margarita thing was funny, and it's working for me. And them kind of finding each other in the crowd, more plot.
Yeah, exactly.
So in the alcove, Piper is sitting down, and Prue and Phoebe come in, and Prue's like, "Hey, how's my stressed out sister?" and or something. And Piper says, "Well, we moved past something and straight into everything. The view sucks. I don't recommend it." And then she asks how they're doing, and Prue says that there was nothing in the book, And Phoebe says, which makes sense because the Animen were created by careless magic, not supernatural evil. And Phoebe is working on a spell, and Prue asks if there's been any sign of them. And Piper says, well, I've been watching that one who came in here looking for Phoebe, but he doesn't seem so creepy. Phoebe looks over and smiles, and Prue's like, oh yeah, the only magic Phoebe wants to work on him is personal. That's her date. And Piper says, oh, why do we seem to have a habit of gathering our men at the scene of a supernatural smackdown? And Phoebe says it's part of our charm. And then Daryl comes in and says hey to them, and Piper says, please tell me you're here for a nice romantic evening with your wife. And Daryl says, no, that'll be what I'm late for. I'm here as a friend. It's not my case, but I've heard a buzz. A string of violent crimes on campus, through your neighborhood, all the way to here into the parking lot. The stolen car the assailants were driving is parked outside. A couple of units are on their way, so, and Prue says thanks for the heads up, and Piper goes to warn security, and then Leo comes in with the salt, and Tessa tells them Andrea and Brooke aren't here, but the guys are, and notices them. So again, where I like their stressed out energy, they kind of raise anxiety levels and have everything going on at once, different perspectives, different views. Then Daryl comes in because God forbid we have an episode without Daryl. And
I'm glad it wasn't
everything else.
magically his case this time, though. So at
Yeah.
least he just like heard about it.
Yeah, just heard a buzz.
We
Like
also now know that for sure that Daryl's married. We didn't know that for sure. We found out a couple episodes ago that he had a
that he
baby, and
has.
now we know he
Yeah.
has a wife.
Yeah, definitely. Slowly learning more about Daryl. Very excited about it. Love that. And aside from that, still more of them just talking, kind of joking around or whatever. You see Ethan showed up for their date, so that's cute.
So then we go back to the main area of P3, and the guys spot Phoebe, and they all see who they are. Then the snake like peels some of the skin off of his face, and there's like scales underneath. Ugh. And then Prue asks how the spell is coming, and Daryl starts heading towards them, and Prue tells him no, but he keeps going anyway. So she astral projects in front of him to stop him, and then she turns to like the Animen, and Snake says, make us human, or by the time you find your friends, they'll be dead. And they like go to grab Prue, but just as they do that, she like astral projects back. Phoebe's doing the spell in the alcove, and that's when Prue appears back and tells them that they hid the girls. Okay, we need to keep them human until we find out where they are. But they open the curtain because the spell's already finished and see that every single person in the club has been turned into an animal. And Piper's like, I don't have a permit for this kind of party.
Okay, I must say, how do they tend to do this? Like, someone's peeling their face off in the middle of a club in public, and there's scales underneath. And then Prue just magically appears, astral projects in front of Daryl, and astral projects away in front of all these people. And not a single one of them notices.
They're all wasted. It's late at the club.
I guess, but still, like, I feel like that's something like the people at least standing right next to them must have like how? It didn't make any sense to me. I feel like that's something that they tend to do. And somehow people still don't find out. Like how I feel
Yeah.
like that would have been exposing, but
Yeah, no, there are some times where the sisters should have been exposed based on what they did, but plot's sake, no one saw
yeah,
it.
plot's sake, no one saw. All right, and now kind of screwed up the spell because everyone turned into an animal, so
This
that's
also
a
makes me
problem.
wonder, like, how did they film this scene with all the animals? Like, how did they put this together?
I mean, I assume like obviously like CGI and everything, but like that's a
I
lot
don't
to
think
like.
so. CGI at that time was not very good.
So yeah, I'm a little confused about it too then. How do they do that? Can't they do like green screen type things?
They could do that, yeah.
Like, I always saw like in Twilight how the wolves like were literally men in green screen suits. Like I wonder if there was just a ton of people in like green screen suits.
But that was over a decade later. Like they didn't have CGI that good. And also Twilight, like the ones with the wolves, those are multi-million-dollar movies. Like Charmed did not have
True.
that budget.
True. Yeah, I don't know. We'll have to like look into that because now I'm kind of curious.
It might have just
Um,
been because I mean, in old Hollywood, they used to literally just have animals that were like actors.
but that to have that many is
But like
crazy.
that's what I'm like they could have done it separately with green screens, kind of like you're saying, like they have one
Oh,
animal sitting there and then they kind of use the green screens to put them all together.
to rest in there. Yeah, makes sense. So Piper is there telling Phoebe to fix it, and Phoebe says Rome was not built in a day, Piper, and she says, "Yeah, but my club was ruined in the blink of an eye." And then they're still worried about finding their innocence, and Prue says right before you cast the spell, Snake said something about if we don't make them human, the girls will die. And Piper asks how much time they have, and they realize there's 35 minutes until midnight. And then Prue asks if Daryl said something about the stolen car parked outside, and Piper says, yeah, followed by the police, who are on their way here right now. And Phoebe is going to work on fixing the spell, and Prue and Piper need to find Brooke and Andrea so they can get medical attention in time. And they have the rabbit and snake in boxes and are taking them with them. And Piper freezes the room to keep the other animals from leaving. And Phoebe announces that she is vegetarian and has never eaten any of them, just kind of like a funny joke. And Prue and Piper go up the stairs outside.
Yeah. So what we laughed at as Mia was reading is I wrote in the comments because they're like, oh, it's 35 minutes till midnight. I'm like, what the hell time did these people make their dinner reservations for? 11:30? Like, I don't
Yeah,
understand.
it doesn't make any sense.
Because like Daryl's like, oh, I'm late for dinner with my wife. Like, babe, the restaurant's closed. It's 11
Yeah,
p.m.
that's what I'm
uh,
saying. Like, it's almost midnight. What do you mean you're late for dinner? What the
and
hell?
like Dan's still waiting. Like, what time did he get there for dinner? 10 of
I know.
30? Like, what time do you guys have reservations for?
It doesn't make any sense.
Like, usually you go out to dinner, it's either 7, 8, or 9. It's not
Yeah,
11:30.
11 p.m. Maybe things are just different in San Francisco.
I guess.
Yeah, like, what the hell?
And like, what? Like, you'd have to be going to a bar. Restaurants aren't even open that late.
Yeah, and you can't really make reservations at a bar most
Yeah.
of the time. Doesn't work like that, but whatever, I guess.
Yeah. They're just, having their casual 11 p.m. Valentine's Day dinner.
Yeah, nothing new.
So then we're outside, and Prue and Piper are walking out, and Prue asks why she has to carry the poisonous snake. And Piper's like, because you're the oldest. And Prue's like, so? She's like, so you've lived a full life. And then they see the car and they go over. They put the boxes down on the ground. Inside, we see that things unfreeze, and Phoebe's yelling at a dog for licking things, but like she's still working on the spell. Back outside, we see that they open the trunk and find the girls. They have a pulse, but they need to get them to the hospital ASAP. Then inside again, we see Phoebe has started casting the reversal spell, and all the animals turn back into people. Then outside, we see the boxes burst open, and Snake and Rabbit are human again. They start attacking the sisters. Prue uses her power to throw Rabbit into a box. Then, like, Snake is grabbing Piper and about to bite her when Prue tells her to hold on and throws them both back against the wall. Rabbit comes jumping at Prue and knocks her over, and she kicks him away. Piper's crawling away from Snake, and she grabs like a 2x4 and like hits him in the nuts. And she's like, how's it feel to be a man now? Great moment. Then she punches him in the face and he falls to the ground, and she's kind of like holding her hand. Then she sees that Rabbit is running towards Prue and freezes him. Then Prue gets up and runs over to her. And Piper's like, oh, should we put them like by each other so that like Snake bites him and they kill each other? But Prue says she has a better idea.
Lots of energy here in this scene. The people are back to human, or I mean, the animals went back to human. The girls are very close to death, and then this cute little fight scene. Not cute, but this fun fight scene. And I love when we get to see Piper be kind of a badass because I feel like it doesn't happen for her too much.
Yeah, yeah. No, I love it. And I thought this was a really well choreographed fight. Like it looked really good. The chaos felt very controlled and very well put together. So I really enjoyed that fight scene.
Agreed. Later outside, we see Snake and Rabbit in the back of a cop car, and they're human for good, but they're going to jail. And the sisters are all standing there as they're driven away. And Prue says they got what they wanted. They get to be treated like humans. And Phoebe says, and caged like them too. Then Daryl walks up to them and says, "You three sure are rewriting my book on public service." And Piper asks if the girls will be okay. And he says that they're on their way to the hospital and they'll be fine. And then Prue says, "Remember when our biggest concern on Valentine's Day was who to spend it with?" Piper's like, "It still is." Prue's like, "Yeah, maybe for you. I was dateless tonight." And Phoebe's like, "Oh, speaking of dates, don't I have one in there?" And the sisters are laughing and they head inside together, and Daryl like shakes his head and walks away. So kind of just like a cute ending, funny moment for Snake and Rabbit. Kind of funny that they ended up being human, and now they're getting to go to jail like a human. And like I said, cute sister moment between the girls. They're all funny, and I like that ending, I think, too. That
Yeah,
kind
I
of
like
wrap
this
up to
little
that.
ending. The fact that they end up back in cages is kind of like this funny karmic like irony for them. So I enjoyed that ending. I guess Daryl is gonna go to his midnight dinner with his wife now.
Yeah, gonna go meet her.
I just love going out to dinner at midnight, so I totally get it.
Yeah, I only get hungry around then. Typical dinner time.
So then we go back inside of P3 and we see that the band is still performing and Phoebe's dancing with Ethan. Piper and Prue are sitting by the bar, and Prue says, I never knew how exhausting not having a job could be. And Piper's like, table 4 needs to be bussed. And they both smile at each other, and Prue says that she's serious. She's like, having a job just made this whole charm thing less stressful. It gave me something else to worry about. She's like, so the Prue of old wins out after all. Prue says, I like being busy. I just need to find something that I love getting busy at. And then Piper says, speaking of getting busy, check out our little sister. And they look over and see like Ethan and Phoebe being real cute. And then Prue leaves. And then we go back by Phoebe and Ethan and we see them like dancing and having a good time together.
Yeah, that felt very cute, I think. Like their energy, they looked very happy to be around each other, and the way they both were, the way Piper and Prue were talking about him, like very cute, I think.
Yeah, this all felt like very sweet, very sisterly. Getting the idea that Prue is always going to be someone who wants to be busy, but like we've been saying all season, she needs to find that thing that's really like makes her happy at the same time. So I'm excited to find out
Exactly.
what that will be.
Me too. All right, and then back by the bar, Dan is sitting there next to Piper, and Dan says, "You're not a beck and call kind of girl. I get that." And Piper says, "I have a job that takes time, a family that takes time, and me and you, and making you and me work is going to take time. I need to know that you're willing to deal with it with me." And he says, "You know I am, as long as you realize who I am. Sometimes I get jealous. I wonder where you are and who you're with, and that's me. But you can't make me something I'm not. Work with me, yes, but change me, no." And Piper says, "Relationships are hard work." He says, "Especially on an empty stomach. Do you think we can talk about this over dinner?" At this point, it's like 1 a.m. I was literally, yeah, like it doesn't make any sense, but okay. And they get up to go have their dinner, I guess. And she has to go back and grab her purse and says that she'll meet him outside. Where the hell are they going to go at 1 a.m.? I don't know.
They're going to the 24-hour diner. That's where their reservation is.
It must be. Um, and then she goes to the alcove and by her purse sees that there's a card, and she opens it, and it's the "For You Always" card that Leo got. And it kind of like does a voiceover of what the card says while she's reading it, and it says, "Piper, when we first met, you thought I was just a handyman. Well, I'm just a handyman again. The same guy you fell in love with, the same guy who fell in love with you. For who you are, remember that, and know that I'm not giving up." And she looks up and over at him, and there's some like deep, serious eye contact. And like in slow mo with music playing, they like slowly walk towards each other, and they kiss and like have this amazing kiss. But it was just kind of like a daydream, and then it goes back to where she really is for real, standing there looking at him, reading the card. and she smiles at him and he does too, and then he looks away and gets back to work and she leaves, and that is how they fucking leave us on this
Oh
episode.
my God. I'm going to say that I at first didn't remember that that was going to be a daydream. And I was like, yes, yes, yes. I didn't
Yeah,
know they were going to like kiss, but get it. And then I was like, fuck, it was fake.
yeah, I know. Kind of sad that it wasn't real, but that came from Piper's mind. Like Piper, oh my God. I'm sorry, but even though I feel bad for Dan and everything, I think it's very clear at this point, like
His days
it's
are numbered. I'm
supposed to
sorry,
be,
Dan. I
yeah,
don't want
like
you to go, but
yeah, it's not gonna be much longer. I mean, look at Piper and Leo, their history, how much they still love each other. At the end of the day, Dan was kind of just a rebound to Piper, and Leo's back, and him saying all that, like it's everything, him not having to work. The one thing that was in their way is like out of the way now, you know? Like this is everything to Piper probably, and I think we know that at this point the show definitely wants us to want Leo and Piper together.
definitely. I don't think there's any question about who we're supposed to believe Piper's soulmate is at this point. I also am just like really picking up on this idea that like if Leo had stayed a white later, I think that Piper and Dan would have eventually figured it out. But I think that now that Leo's mortal, Leo's here, there's no way that Piper and Leo aren't getting back together.
I definitely agree with you. I mean, if Leo had to stay gone and those things were happening, then yeah, Dan and Piper would have probably ended up staying together. But now that Leo's back, it's like she's got the one that she really wants. And it's going to happen.
It's just a matter of time. And I'm sad because I like having Dan around, but I don't know how much longer we have left with this character.
Me neither. I'm counting his days.
Me too.
But that was very intense moment. Made my heart melt a little bit reading the note, and
I
I can't
know.
wait to see how this goes. Sorry, Dan.
Yeah. Sorry, Dan.
Rest in peace.
He's
All
not even
right.
gone yet. We're talking about him in the
I
past tense.
know, but we know damn well it's a matter of time. So I feel like there's not much cliffhangers left aside from the, wondering when this is going to happen with Dan and Leo. But, we still got Phoebe. This is the first time we've seen her in college. It looks like it's going well. Prue obviously wants to start up something new career wise. So, I mean, maybe we'll get closer to finding out what that is in the next couple of episodes.
Yeah, totally. And then do we think Ethan's going to stick around or do we think this is another one episode love interest?
No, there wasn't enough of an interaction between them for this to last more than half the episode, like it did.
True.
I hate that they do this. Like, why can't we have someone for Phoebe? When's it gonna happen?
I don't know. I don't know. Or do I?
Can't wait though. We'll see. We'll get there. Right now we've got Piper, Leo, and Dan at play. We need to figure some things out first.
Exactly. Anything else for the episode overall?
Not really. I mean, it was definitely a good one. It didn't feel like too important of an episode aside from maybe the drama with, Dan, Leo, and Piper. But aside from that, I don't know. It was a good one, fun to watch, but
Yeah, I'll say
yeah,
I've always disliked this episode and I don't even know why, but I actually did enjoy it. I
yeah,
enjoyed watching it. I enjoyed our conversation. So like this episode was not nearly as bad as I thought it was going to be in my head for some reason. I don't even know why I disliked this episode,
yeah.
honestly.
I never really cared for it that much. I never really like cared to watch it that much. But talking about it, it's we definitely found some good moments in here. And I still wouldn't say it's one of my favorites or that I feel like it's anything real important or real special, but it was definitely a good episode overall,
Yeah,
I
no,
think.
I enjoyed it. The many plot holes aside,
Yeah. Yeah.
it wasn't bad.
Agreed.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode. If you want to reach out to us or follow us on social media, we're on Instagram and TikTok at @rewitched_pod. You can also send us an email to rewitched.pod@gmail.com. And join us back next time for Season 2, Episode 14, Pardon My Past.